I've got some sweet potatoes and some apples peeled, and this is how I like to slice up my sweet potatoes. I'll split them in half so they'll lay flat on the surface, and then you can just slice them super easy. Plus, your knife doesn't have to go through near as much material if you're cutting this direction. If you will start out slicing your sweet potatoes, it will make you feel like you have ninja-like knife skills when you get onto your apples because they cut super easily. I do have about twice as much sweet potato as I do apple by volume here, but by all means, if you like one better than the other, you feel free to change those ratios. Now that we have everything sliced, we're just going to throw everything in the crock pot and put a couple tablespoons of vegetable on that. This is just so that the seasoning will stick to everything really good. We're going to mix that in really well and add some salt, some brown sugar, some cinnamon, some nutmeg, and some vanilla extract. And be sure to sling at least one slice across the kitchen while you're mixing these in. Now, I like to start off light with all of my seasonings because you can always add more later. You cannot take any out though. So I start with probably a tablespoon and a half or so of salt, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a teaspoon of nutmeg. And then I started with a cup of brown sugar that happened to be really clumpy. And I know this is a common occurrence, but if you'll stick it in the microwave for about 30 seconds, it breaks up really nicely. And once we get all this incorporated, we're just going to cover it and put it on low for about 4 hours. This is going to depend a little bit on how big of pieces you cut and how full your crock pot is. Once everything is cooked, do remember to taste it and adjust accordingly. I did almost double every seasoning that I put in here. For the pie crust, I'm just modifying my biscuit dough. And here I put in half a cup of sugar, which I don't recommend because it does wind up caramelizing a little bit faster than the dough can get done. And it gives it a near fried cornbread look and texture. But otherwise, I just add in a little bit of nutmeg and cinnamon to 3 cups of self-rising flour. I have a stick of melted butter and then 1 cup of milk that I'm going to add in here as well. You can put a little oil on your hands while you're working this dough here, and it will stick much less than the traditional just flouring your hands. Once this comes together, we're just going to set this to the side and get ready to roll this out super thin. I lay some parchment paper down and then flour that. Just in case it sticks to the table, I can always cut the parchment paper out and still get it into the skillet. But if you'll notice when you're doing this, the parchment paper is going to want to slide everywhere. If you happen to have a table or countertop that has fold-in leaves, you can tuck them in there and it will hold the paper still, which luckily worked out to be an absolute brilliant kitchen hack. I found that about a quarter of an inch thick is as thin as I could roll it without it tearing, so that's just where I stopped. And then I grabbed a bowl that's just slightly smaller than what I would eat cereal out of and used it to cut because my biscuit cutters just weren't as big as I wanted them to fill these pies. Speaking of, I actually did all of my sweet potato and apples the day before, so I stuck it in the fridge. It's a little bit easier to work with this way, I think, and then it's not hot while you're trying to add pie filling to your crust here. Just take a spoon, put it on half of it, fold it over, and then I crimp the edge with a fork and get it ready for the skillet. Now, you absolutely could deep fry these, but that does take a lot more oil, and I just like cooking stuff in a cast iron. So I've got some pretty hot oil here. It's probably around 350 degrees. I drop a piece of dough in there just to confirm my presupposition. Now we're going to lay these in away from us so we don't splash oil on ourselves, and 2 of them happen to fit in there just about perfectly. These are going to cook probably 4 minutes or so per side, and then we're just going to flip them over as carefully as we possibly can. And here you can see where that sugar did me absolutely no favors and almost burnt the outside of that. So that's why I am saying you should skip this on your go around. We're going to remove these out of the oil, place them on a wire cooling rack to drain, and then just continue until we fried all of our pies. And by design, there was filling left over. I did not put any butter in it before I cooked it because I didn't want the pies to be oily and gross, but I am now. And this will make a perfect side to basically anything. And onto these pies, they are, crispy and pie-like. And the filling is absolutely perfect. I highly recommend trying these. Thanksgiving is coming up, so you would be a smash hit if you brought a plate full of these to any Thanksgiving get-together. Other than that, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Really hope y'all enjoyed. If you do wind up trying this, give me a shout out on social media and let me know how it goes.